Welcome back to the OK Not OK podcast. I'm Dr. OK, and today we are grading whether the new Women's United States Championship is an okay idea or a not okay idea. And to figure that out, we will go back to our question of the week from July 17th, 2024, when we first talked about the possibility of the WWE adding the mid-card titles for the women. And in that video, we said that the WWE needs to change. Just like Damage Control said that they needed to change in order to make this a good idea for the WWE to add at least one mid-card title. And as always, we will look back into the stats that we provided at that time, and we'll check in with some new stats going forward. So before we get to that, let's actually talk about this actual Women's United States Championship. It was GM Nick Aldis announcing the Women's United States Championship on Friday Night SmackDown this past Friday, and I have to admit, it looks amazing. Certainly befitting of a true champion, and it certainly should be a really good benefit for anyone who is wearing that title belt. Now, in that particular pre-tape video, Aldis really didn't give us any details about the United States Championship, so we really don't know what to go by. It seemed that he implied that this would be one title that would go between both brands, just like the Women's Tag Team Championships, but it is not 100% guarantee at this exact moment. And he also did not say when or how the first Women's United States Champion will be determined. Now, I sure hope that it is a very nice big tournament with pretty much all of the women's competitors available and involved in one-on-one matches to get all the way through to a championship match, pretty much just like the King and Queen of the Ring finals, where we had everyone from Raw competing on one side of the bracket and everyone from SmackDown competing on the other side of the bracket. And at the end, there was one champion between the two brands. So I really hope that's what we get again this time. So as I mentioned off of the top of the video, WWE needs to change. And what I said at that time basically was that the WWE needs to have more women's matches to even make it a reasonable idea to add a mid-card title. And I even suggested back then that if they added the mid-card title, they might need to get rid of the Women's Tag Team Championships. Well, with the threat of Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson by the wayside, it looks like the Women's Tag Team Championships will indeed be remaining on the main roster for the foreseeable future, and they're certainly in good hands with Jade and Bianca seemingly never going to be able to be defeated, unless, of course, maybe they get snuck in again in a future multi-team match. But who knows if that will happen, but for now, Jade and Bianca just keep on rolling as they seem to be wrestling in every single show anymore, and of course, getting the job done every single time. But getting back to the new mid-card champion, is this going to be a chicken or the egg scenario? Such that will the title make the women or will the women make the title? That certainly remains to be seen, as we need to go into the stats to see just yet if the WWE has changed at all since we first brought up the idea. But before we go forward, let's look back and show a little bit about those statistics from that July episode. Let's look at this a little bit further. So far, there have been 65 total Raws, SmackDowns, and Premium Live events through this week's Raw. But we have only had 59 total one-on-one women's matches. So that averages out to just 0.91 one-on-one matches per episode. Needless to say, if we can't even average one one-on-one episode per show, it's going to be pretty hard to add a secondary title. But if we dig in just a little bit deeper, we will add in the singles matches, which included the Royal Rumble, the Elimination Chamber, and several Money in the Bank ladder match qualifying matches. We have 12 of those. So that gets us to 71 total singles matches in 2024, and that is an average of 1.09 singles matches per show. And yeah, that gets us over one singles match per show, but that's still not very good. Whew, okay, those were not very impressive statistics if you want to have a great mid-card title for the women. So let's see, has the WWE improved since that time? Well, since that video, starting with the July 19th SmackDown and going through this past Monday's Raw, which was on Veterans Day, November 11th, there have been 38 televised shows, which include Raw, SmackDown, and of course the premium live events. And in those 38 televised shows, there have been 32 one-on-one women's matches. That is a total of 0.84 matches per show. And if you add other singles matches, well, we only have 2 more of them to get us 34 total singles matches for 0.89 matches per show. That was just the Battle Royal we just saw in Riyadh, as well as the Fatal 4-Way on the SmackDown before Crown Jewel. And of course, that means both of those numbers are lower than what we had from January 1st through July 15th. But there is one caveat here, it is an important one. We of course lost 1 hour of Monday Night Raw beginning on October 7th. So let's break the stats down just a little bit more. In the 26 televised shows from July 19th through Bad Blood on October 5th, we had 25 one-on-one matches, which is 0.96 one-on-one matches per show, and there were no additional singles matches, so that number stays the same. And in the 12 shows since then, which is October 7th through November 11th, that number dropped to just 7 one-on-one matches, which is just 0.58 one-on-one matches per show, or with those 2 singles matches added, that's 0.75 singles matches per show. Uh-oh. That doesn't sound good. I guess maybe there was an inkling of an improvement with 0.96 one-on-one matches per show up until October 7th, but of course that was just shut down once we got to the 2-hour Raw. So now we're in pretty bad shape right now. 0.58 and 0.75 matches per show. Just pretty awful. But that doesn't necessarily mean a bad thing for all women, so let's look at all match types since that time. Now, I'm not going to go back and recalculate everything from before July 19th, but starting with July 16th, in those 26 shows, there have been 130 total televised matches between both genders and including mixed tag matches. Now, we have had 41 matches that included at least one woman in the match, so that gives us 31.54% of all matches included women. And now comparing it to the new 2-hour Raw era, I guess if you want to call this an era, we've had those 12 shows with 52 total matches, and 20 of them had women in them, which is an improvement at 38.46% of the matches include at least one woman. So that is an increase. Obviously, it's a very small sample size, as the statisticians out there would say, but maybe we can say that the men's lower and mid-card are the matches that are more likely to be cut out of that extra hour being gone than it is for the women. And in fact, in the SmackDown right before Crown Jewel, which of course has always been a 2-hour show, we had 3 out of 5 matches include women's matches. Very impressive there. That was really the high watermark that we have seen for quite some time. So just maybe that's a shift in all matches going to women, but again, as far as one-on-one matches and as far as singles matches, we're really in pretty bad shape right here to be able to find a way to get any women on the card for a singles match. Alright, let's flip it over to title matches, as those are kind of an indication on maybe just how the United States Championship will go when we compare that to the Women's World Championship and the Women's WWE Championship. So far in 2024, we've had 17 total championship matches between the WWE Women's Championship and the World Women's Championship. 9 of them for the World Championship and 8 of them for the WWE Championship. Now we will put a caveat in there that one of those 17 matches was the Women's Battle Royal that Becky Lynch won, so we can probably mostly eliminate that, which we will do for our calculations going forward, as we had a whole bunch of people have a shot at a title in that particular match. So in the 16 remaining Women's Championship matches, 15 of those were one-on-one matches, and the only other singles match was a triple threat match between Bayley, Naomi, and Tiffany Stratton. So among those 16 matches, we've had 33 total participants. So among those 33 slots, the leaders for most title match appearances is Bayley with 6 of them. In second place, we have a tie. Of course, the two that keep fighting it out, Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan. Then in fourth place, we have just Nia Jax. She's had 4 total title match opportunities, and she's the only one who's gotten a chance at both of the women's titles, with one of them being the World Championship before the draft, and then since, of course, she moved over to the SmackDown, she's had 3 title matches for the WWE Championship. Then after that, in sixth place, we have a tie, 2 championship matches each between Io Sky, Michin, and Naomi, and then a tie for ninth place, all with just 1 shot at it. We had Ivy Nile, Zelina Vega, Tiffany Stratton, and Piper Niven. So out of those 33 title opportunities, only 6 of them have gone to women who have not yet been a champion, and that is only 16.22%. So you just might be thinking that for a Women's United States Championship, it might be someone who has not yet won a championship. And if you're thinking that, these ladies have not even gotten much of a chance to win either of the Women's World Championships. Now, the biggest example of that has been in this Liv Morgan era. She defeated Becky Lynch at King and Queen of the Ring on May 25th, and then on the following Monday Night Raw, she defeated Becky yet again inside a steel cage. And of course, we have not seen Becky since then, very much to all of our chagrin. But since then, in Liv's 5.5-month title reign, she has only even given 1 title opportunity to someone other than Rhea Ripley, and that was Zelina Vega's 1 chance on July 1st. So that's just the problem with Monday Night Raw, especially right now. It seems like we don't even have any challengers that are even viable to go after Liv. So does that make them real legitimate contenders to go for the Women's United States Championship? So let's figure out if we have any actual viable contenders. So going all the way back to January 1st through November 11th, that is pretty much the entire year, folks. That is 10.5 months worth of matches. 10.5 months. We have a total of 6 women who have more than 5 one-on-one wins for the entire year. 6 women. And of course, all 6 of them are your current or former women's champions. So finally, if we drop it down to 5 wins, we do add both Lyra Valkyria and Tiffany Stratton. And of course, neither of them have yet been a women's world champion on the main roster. But bad news, folks. Lyra has just one one-on-one victory since the King of the Ring tournament back in May. And even worse, Tiffany Stratton has 0 one-on-one victories since March. And of course, Tiffy may indeed make it Tiffy time by cashing in that Money in the Bank briefcase at any time. But if Lyra and Tiffy are maybe your best choices for the United States Championship, that's not saying a whole lot there. So if we want to look even deeper down the roster, let's just talk about what some of the other women's records just so happen to be right now. Well, let's start off with Monday Night Raw. So, here are your other potential contenders. If you really like them, who you think might just be good champions for the United States Championship? Well, Dakota Kai, she just returned. She is 0-4. Her other good damage control buddy, Kairi Sane, well, she's not even trying at 0-1. Well, maybe Zelina Vega, she did have a chance at the title, but yeah, she is just 1-6 in one-on-one matches. So do you really think she's a good US champion? Oh boy. Well, let's keep looking. Shayna Baszler, she's had opportunities in the past, but she is just 1-3 so far this year. And her tag team partner, Zoe Stark, not much better. She is 2-4. But maybe let's go to another newcomer who had a chance this year, Ivy Nile. She has a great 2-3 one-on-one record. But maybe you think an old grizzled veteran might be the best way to go. Natalya, she's a former champion, but she's just 1-2 in one-on-one matches. Oh boy, not looking so good, is it? Alright, well let's see if anything is different on the SmackDown side. So let's start off with Piper Niven. She had a title chance this year, but she is 0-6 in one-on-one matches. Her tag team partner, a lot of people think would be a really good choice, I bet. She is a whopping 1-6. So Chelsea and Piper put together 1-12. Really good contenders there for the US Championship, right? Okay. Well, let's keep looking. Maybe you want that veteran presence. We've seen Candice LeRae here operating recently, but she, of course, is just 2-3 in one-on-one matches. And lastly, you're going to say Michin, of course, would be a really great pick for this. And you know what? She actually has a few wins this year. She is 4-8. So yeah, in those 12 matches that she's gotten, you know how many wins are against former champions? 0. You know how many of those wins are against Chelsea and Piper? Every single one of them. So yeah, she is winless when she goes up against anyone who is not Chelsea or Piper. So do you really think she's a good champion? You know what? I think I've got the best idea. Let's just wait on out until Charlotte Flair can come back, and then she can really grace us with her presence, and she can be the one to truly become the first one who is worthy to hold the Women's United States Championship. So let's go back to the table one more time and look at women's roster sizes. So let's break that down by gender here briefly. On the men's side, we have had at least 80 men who have appeared in at least one match in 2024 who would be considered to be main roster superstars. For this purpose, we have excluded any NXT superstars who remain in NXT, or those wrestlers who are not actually employed by WWE. Now, there may be a few wrestlers who are no longer employed by WWE, but we have left them in here since they have wrestled matches in 2024. Now, if we compare that to the women's side, there are only 38 women under that same criteria of having wrestled at least one match on the main roster in 2024. When you look at the Raw side versus all of the women's roster, it is approximately equal. We've counted 37 men who are specific to Raw that fall under that criteria, but only 38 women total between both brands. So there you see it. At the time, Raw had just as many men on it as the entire women's roster. So let's look at that same number now. So since then, we've added a few people, and a few people have kind of gone by the wayside. But for the entire year, when we include those people who are no longer on the roster, we have 87 men who have had at least one televised match. But for the women, we've had 40 total women have at least one televised match. Now, of course, we will not count Lashley Jakara, even though they got many opportunities last month because they remain on NXT. But let's break that down by just Monday Night Raw for the men. They now have 41 men who have had at least one televised match on Raw, and that does now indeed defeat the 40 women on both brands. So at the end of the day, has the WWE changed at all? Well, I'd say certainly not really one iota. And if anything, with the 2-hour Raw, things have gotten a little bit worse for one-on-one matches, if maybe not just a little bit better for matches overall. So the question remains, is it the chicken or the egg? Will the United States title build the challengers? Because right now, the WWE is not doing a good job to build the challengers on their own. But if we look at it the opposite way, will the United States Championship force the WWE to change their ways to put on more women's singles matches? That certainly is a possibility that we will hold out hope for. And will this new title also force the WWE to more evenly balance the rosters? As we just saw, Raw has had more men having matches than the entire women's division on WWE so far in 2024. But with this new title, let's hope that that evens things out a little bit more. Now, if it were up to me, it would be a perfect 50-50 split, because of course, who would not want to have nice things and have more very athletic women on your television screen, and then maybe just get rid of a couple big sweaty men having matches? So, I mean, it makes perfect sense to me. These women are amazing, let's get them on our TV. But even with this new championship, I am just very skeptical that WWE will indeed change for the better to give us more women's matches. But like I just said on our SmackDown show, theoretically, this is a great idea, so theoretically, we're gonna give this for now an okay. But speaking of the women, we reviewed Liv Morgan and her potential to go into the War Games match last week, and then we also talked about the men's War Games match yesterday. So if you missed either of those, be sure to go right on over here to check those out. But of course, if you haven't seen either of those, or if you for some reason don't want more women's matches on TV, that certainly is not okay.